This is Jared. What is this our third series, our third one that we're doing, correct?
Correct.
I believe so. Through our third series of Moving To, and I'm very, very excited today because we're going to be talking about Upstate New York, and we have Larry O'Toole of Lawrence O'Toole Realty. I've known Larry for about 8 years now, and you said you started your firm, what, 6 years ago, Larry?
Actually, 8 years.
8 years ago.
As long as I've known you.
And within 8 short years, Larry's firm has really become the powerhouse upstate in the Hudson Valley and Catskills. So it's really an honor to have him here. And he brought some of his top agents on today to talk to us about it. We also have Matt LaSpada. Did I pronounce LaSpada correct?
Mm-hmm.
LaSpada. Okay, LaSpada, with Ulster Savings. No plug, but I do have accounts at Ulster Savings, Matt. So if extra money's fallen there by tomorrow, that would be great. And he's going to tell us about how to finance a second home and how that all works and how much money you have to put down and what kind of rates are going on with it. So Larry, I'm going to turn it over to you now. Why don't you introduce your super great team you got here, and then everybody just chime in a little bit about themselves.
Okay, I will introduce myself very briefly. I've been in the business for almost 20 years. I've lived up here since '94, but I've had a connection and a place in the city all that time as well too. So I certainly know the lay of the land. Our company is in 4 different MLS systems. We cover Ulster, Dutchess, Columbia Green, and everything south down to New York City. So on my left is Jonathan Hubschman, and I'm going to let Jonathan introduce himself.
Thanks, Larry. Jonathan Hubschman with Lawrence O'Toole Realty, and I cover mostly Ulster, Green, Columbia, and Dutchess. I'll be spending a little bit of time talking about land, and looking forward to answering your questions.
Oh, great. Thank you, Jonathan.
And then we're going to go across to Nolan Zimmerman.
Hey, everyone.
Hey, Nolan.
Hey, I am Nolan Zimmerman, and I'm actually a city expat myself. I moved up here 3 years ago full-time after being a weekender for a few years. Woodstock is my backyard. I love it here. I'm part of the community. And from a real estate perspective, I run around to almost anywhere, primarily in the Ulster area, Ulster County area, but everywhere from Woodstock, Saugerties, Kingston, Shandaken, Phoenicia, those areas.
He has even gone into the wilds of Delaware.
That's a far one. That one will take you on a trek, that's for sure. Yeah, things are never as close as they look on a map. I'm just going to tell you all that right now.
And then we're going to go down to Robert Stang. Robert?
Hi, it's Robert Stang. I've been in the real estate business as a developer for about 50 years and had a license for 48, and I've been doing business up here the last few years after being out west for a while in Oregon and New Mexico, and back in this lovely community. I started out in Manhattan, and here I deal with Ulster, Delaware, Columbia, Dutchess County, and I've had a lot of fun doing it. So.
And you might mention, Robert, that Robert is very well versed in commercial and investment. That I would say is his specialty.
Oh, super great. Well, that's great, Robert. We may have some questions for you on that then.
And then I guess we move over to Matt, who, even though he's not with our company, is part of the family.
Thanks, Larry. Yeah, LaSpada. I'm with Ulster Savings Bank, which is one of the fairly larger community banks in the Hudson Valley. I've been lending now for almost 5 years, and just been with Ulster Savings now for a little bit over a year. So it's been an interesting run here, and absolutely love what I do. It was funny when we were talking before this, I'm a native to the area. I'm born and raised here in the Hudson Valley, and I have a little bit of a unique perspective in that most people tend to migrate up from the city to the area. My family migrated down. So, you know, I had family
That's
out.
so great. I remember that. That's really funny.
I mean, most of Canada, you know, you have some family out on Lake Ontario where, you know, the Hudson Valley may seem like a quaint place, but it's a bustling metropolis compared to what's up there. So.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Well, that's super great. Anyone else, Larry? Or that's the crew?
Nope, that's all of us.
That's the crew. Great. Well, Nolan, what I liked was how you touched base on how you, you know, you were a weekender first and turned into a full time. You know, full disclosure, I have a place in Shandaken right on Route 42. If I do a 3-mile run, I make it to Greene County from Ulster County, halfway through my run there and back. And it's similar in my community. I would say that, you know, half of the people are quote unquote full-timers, half are weekenders, but half of the full-timers were weekenders and said, look, it's so beautiful up here. How do I make a career change so I can be up here all the time? And I think that's really something that's really a big magic about the areas that you guys sell on it. So we're going to talk a little bit, you know, about like what are some established areas, what are some hot up and coming areas. And then my favorite part of it is the second half, the final 20 minutes in financing, of course, with Matt. The final 20 minutes is going to see real live properties, actual properties that you can call these people and see the properties. I'm going to say tomorrow just to put pressure on, but maybe later this week. But these are real things that you can go out and buy. And I think that's really great. I really want people to see what's available for them out there. So quickly, you know, buying a second home or what's it about? For some people, it's a plan. I'll briefly touch on my little story. Is that when my husband and I, we had our son Noble, and at about a year, we realized a lot of people, even if you have big lofts in the city, once you got 2 or 3 families together, there just wasn't enough space to do anything, or it just felt kind of crowded, and it turned into be a nice getaway on that. So I would say if it's, you know, good things, if you're thinking about it, it's in plans, it's great. The only thing I always have a caution of, and I know that we've had some extraordinary, unprecedented times, is I always advise against a fear move, right? Get me out of where I am because I'm afraid of what's happening. So I would just have a caution on that. But Larry, maybe we can touch base on you. What was kind of your story on how you discovered Upstate? And you said you've been there since '94, right?
94. I had a business in New York, and it was a transportable business. And interestingly enough, a lot of my story is happening now. So I was looking for a place where I actually sold rare classical vinyl records, mostly to the Far East. So I needed, and it was all remote. So I needed a place to live and to warehouse everything. And I thought, why don't, you know, once I started looking for a country home, I said, well, why don't I just move there? Which I did. And it's interesting now because a lot of the migration up here really has to do with people figuring out that they don't need to go to an office any longer.
Absolutely.
So the second home concept is really undergoing a radical change because now people are moving here and they're moving here for good. So the demographic is going to change, the huge change going on. And very briefly to touch on, you know, the quotes panic buying that may be going on. And it is going on. Today I got an accepted offer on a property for $795,000 and it went to $950,000.
Wow,
So
that's amazing.
That's unprecedented. But, you know, these are people, this is not going to be a second home for them. This is going to be their real home. So the second home market is really changing into a primary residence market as well. And excuse me, it's just an unbelievably mercurial market anything that comes on that's not ridiculously priced, overpriced, don't even think about paying less than full price. And even then you won't get it. So that's what's going on in a nutshell.
That makes sense. So Nolan, tell us a little bit about like what is, you know, and you kind of, you mentioned you're in Woodstock. What is maybe like an established area if somebody wants something quote unquote blue chip, and then kind of what's an up and coming area that perhaps you know the public out there doesn't quite know about it yet. But what's the new it neighborhood?
So, I mean, places like Woodstock, we're established, right? We have the name behind us. You know, everyone's always going to want to, you know, be a part of this community, especially with so much of the cultural change that's gone on here, just with new restaurants, better, you know, better shopping, things to actually do. So there's definitely been that shift, which has drawn people here. In my opinion, when I look out there, I've had a lot of people asking me about what's happening in Catskill. You can still get into Catskill, you know, at an affordable price. Affordable, right? You're not gonna, don't expect to come in and get a move-in ready 3-bedroom, 2-bath house, you know, for $250,000 maybe, but it's probably not gonna be your sophisticated taste. That said, in Catskill, you can be, you know, across the river to Hudson in, you know, 15 minutes. You can be down in Saugerties in 15 minutes. It's really, you can be in skiing in 15 minutes up at Hunter. So it's one of those places that's right off of I-87, off the thruway, that is easy to get to from the city, super convenient to places, and still not outrageous if you don't have, you know, a significant budget. You go a little bit further out in some of the other areas, you know, whether it's West Saugerties, you're going to be a little bit closer down here. You can maybe still touch on some things, but that would be my recommendation. However, being a Woodstock, you know, native at this point, I would like to consider myself and a part of the community. You know, if you have, you know, a $500,000 budget, come here. You know, by all means, it's going to give you everything that you want, and you're still 15 to Saugerties, 15 to Kingston, 20 minutes to Phoenicia. You're really still very central.
It is very central. Jonathan, what is your take? Do you have anything to add about other established towns or other up and coming areas?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think, you know, you're always trying to find the balance of distance versus price. And just as Nolan was indicating, if you go a little bit further out, there's still areas that have really substantial value. Right? I would tend to track a little bit further south of
interesting.
209. There are areas that are lower tax, a little less traveled, but still have incredible proximity to the city. And, you know, maybe not, if you're interested in skiing, you're going to be a little bit further afield, but if you want trails and hiking, fishing, these kinds of things, and then just, you know, beautiful open property, there's really a lot to be found.
Are you talking like Rosendale or what towns are you thinking?
Marbletown, Olive Ridge, Shokan.
Okay.
Still really lovely properties tucked away in these areas. And later on, we'll be talking a bit about land. And so, again, these are areas where you can still find a really nice buildable parcel of land.
Oh, that's great. And Robert, what is your? Do you have anything to add to these to what these gentlemen have said?
No, I think they've kind of, I think they haven't talked much about Dutchess and Columbia County, which also have opportunities there. The closer you get to the city, the more closer you get to Westchester, the prices change, but there are still open space. There are land. There is land available. There are opportunities there for housing in pretty nice areas that are reasonably priced. So, and some people don't want to drive more than an hour and a half from the city still, if they're not going to be locating there. You know, if they're not going to be living there permanently. So,
one interesting change since I've been up here, Dutchess County used to be more expensive. It's not anymore. The prices are really comparable across the board. So a lot of people who come to Dutchess end up over in Ulster and vice versa.
Interesting.
So it's very fluid now. I mean, I showed a house in Copake Falls, which is actually Columbia, today, and they put an offer in on it right away, full price, no ask, but they got a very nice house, and they would have gotten the same house over in Ulster for the same money. And it used to be that you couldn't do that.
Wow.
So it's all kind of spread out like pizza dough.
Fair enough. Now, Matt, tell us a little bit. Now, if I want to buy a second home, do I have to put 50% down? Do I have to put 20% down? How does financing for a second home work? Can you maybe touch base on that a little bit?
Yeah, well, first I want to touch base on it. If you're looking for a primary residence, there are a number of options as far as the mortgage programs you're going to look at. But if we're strictly second homes, you're really limited to just a handful of programs. And primarily, it's going to be a conventional mortgage, which conveniently is most likely going to give you the best terms regardless. And you can ask any of your agents all. When push comes to shove, all else equal, a conventional mortgage pre-approval is going to look better than a government-sponsored program. There is a common myth out there that the 20% down or is the absolute minimum, and that's not the case. For a second home, you can go 10% down with a conventional mortgage. And with the way rates are right now on a conventional mortgage, you're going to see, and I like to speak in generalities, not specifically savings, but if you're going to talk to any banker, you're going to see, as of right now, rates probably varying between 3 1/8 and 3.5% on a 30-year fix. And if you're able to borrow money with that low of a rate, it's worth exploring that option of doing 90% down. You have the 20% you do avoid mortgage insurance, but the mortgage insurance rates these days are very, very reasonable as well. So
okay, well, that's really great. And then quickly, I wanted to touch base on, and we're not here about skirting the law in any way, shape, or form, but how would you apply for a home as a primary mortgage? Let's say somebody rents in this, and this is another micro trend I'm seeing. People are renting in the city. This is my 9 to 5 pad, Monday through Friday, but my home is upstate. How can I claim that as a primary? Do I have to be there over 6 months or 6 months in one day, or how does the banks look at that as a primary residence?
Very interesting, because it's one of the questions on the application is, do you intend to occupy this property as your primary residence? And sometimes I have people that they draw a blank on that. They're not sure. And that is kind of a gray area, especially as Larry had alluded to. People are working remotely now, and you have to spend time in this getaway up here. Why not spend more of your time up here? So it's very interesting. The reactions that I see from people when I ask that question is they're not entirely sure. And from the bank's perspective, there's not a huge difference as far as the costs between a primary residence and a secondary residence. Really, what we're taking a look at is going from one housing payment to 2 housing payments. So you have to consider, take into consideration both of those housing payments. If you plan on collecting income on the second home up here, that opens up a can of worms on existing investment property. And at that point, there are down payment requirements of 25%, and interest rates are a little bit higher. So it's a little trickier when you're dealing possible investment, but primary to secondary, it's really just a matter of 1 and 2 housing payments.
Understood. And what is kind of a rule of thumb of gross income to housing payment ratio that you guys look at?
Conventional and most programs, it's going to be 50% of your income. So if you're making, you can't be spending more than half of your income towards potentially 1 housing payment, now 2 housing payments, and then all other debts that you're paying, whether that be a car loan, any of the credit cards, the minimum balances, those show up on your credit report. All of those are taken into consideration when qualifying. And if all those numbers don't add up to half of your income, you might have a problem with qualifying from a monthly.
Okay. No, that's something to take into consideration on that, and I appreciate your candidness with that. It's funny, on a side note, that I'm just going to jump back in because I'm really excited to see real life properties that are available for people to see. But I had someone helping someone sell a place here in the city today that's, it's a large 2-bedroom, but it's not, a traditional 3 or 4 bedroom. And they were concerned what is the market going to respond to this? And my answer was, the market's going to love this because people are buying second homes and they're looking at their city place as a Monday through Friday 9 to 5 place. And as soon as the workday is over, we can go upstate and relax. So that way you're able to kind of spread your money around, so to speak, and stay within those guidelines. All right, so let's talk about some properties. Jonathan, do you want to do the share screen, or how is this? How do you want to coordinate this?
Sure. Just tell me, Larry, if you want to call out the first one that you want to talk about, then I'll just share the screen for that property.
Just put it up and I'll wing it.
Okay.
All right, and we're starting with quote unquote entry properties first, right? A couple of entry properties, one or two, or it's just kind of random. Okay.
Yeah, we do have one. I think we have Nolan's
Let's see.
on Sawkill.
Yep, just went live today.
All right, brand new. You've seen it here first.
Unless you were poking around, one of those other sites.
Right.
In fact, Nolan, since it's your listing, you talk about that.
Yeah, so this is a really sweet move-in ready house. There's literally nothing you have to do. 3-bedroom, 1.5 bath, 15 minutes to Woodstock, 10 minutes to Kingston. It's on the Sawkill Road, a country road, so there's a little bit of road noise, but honestly not that much. When you're set back the way this house is, it's perched up above. The kitchen is move-in ready. The bathrooms are updated. It's just a super
I'm just going to chime in. Jonathan, can you flip through the pictures a little bit at all while Nolan is talking?
Absolutely.
Thank you, sir.
Not at all.
Okay, go ahead, Nolan.
All right. Let's quickly, there you go. So you can see up, well, anyway, there a lot of original character to this house. You can see, the original wood frames around the doors and the windows. It's simply staged, but that's actually how the owners live in it now. They work from home. They were city people. They moved up here full time. They're looking to expand. So that's why they're selling this house. But as you can see, the kitchen was redone within the past 5 years. The roof was new in 2015, new furnace, new oil tank, above ground.
I love that bathroom.
Yeah.
And what's the price and what's the lot size, or like price size of the house and lot size?
So the house is about 1,200 square feet. The lot size is about just under 2/3 of an acre, priced at $289. So under that 300,000 mark. Super find up here right now, but this happens to be a really good one, and you don't have to spend a dime when you move in here.
And how many bedrooms and baths?
3 bedrooms, 1.5 baths.
Oh, perfect.
What's also nice, there's a mudroom when you first walk in. The half bath is there, so if you are entertaining downstairs, they don't have to go and use your bath upstairs, which is nice.
Lovely floor plans, gentlemen. It's always nice to see decent floor. Sometimes you're like, it's sketched on a notebook or something. That's
it's
really
rare
charming.
for up here, actually.
I would imagine.
Because we actually don't have anybody living up here who makes their living doing floor plans like in the city.
Yeah, well, it's a great differentiator and really helps prospective buyers. All right, what's next on the list, gentlemen?
How about
By South Gully.
South Gully? Actually, can we do Viking Lane? Is that all right?
Yeah, South Gully is a better. I thought we would go up in price point.
That's fine. It's just not in the order.
If Viking Lane is easier, let's just do it. We'll.
Here we go.
Wow, look at that view.
Woodstock, the $1 million view.
Incredible.
Yeah, this is what you're paying for. The house, will need updating. It will definitely need renovation. This is Brenda's listing, but you cannot get. Oh, and it's almost in town. It's just outside Woodstock Village, and
has a lot of charm.
Yeah, I mean, for the right people, you know, you could turn this into a real showplace. Jonathan, I don't have the listing in front of me. I think it's a 4-bedroom, 2-bath. I don't know if you can see it there.
2 full baths.
3-2.
3-2, okay. And it's only on, I think, under 3 acres or so.
Yeah, it says 2.5 acres.
But it is completely and totally private. When you get in there, you do not see anybody else. It's also a dead-end lane. It's not even a road, it's a lane. So that's on for $795. And, but you know, sprinkle some fairy dust on this one and you're well over $1 million.
Wow, that's amazing. And I do want to point out, sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, go ahead.
But I do want to point out, you know, and I myself have been in the Catskills here for 12 years, that almost all of my friends constantly have their homes, quote unquote, under renovation, including mine. So please don't feel like your home has to be in perfect condition when you first show up. If you visit my house, you'll see many walls that are framed but are still waiting for sheetrock and that type of thing. So it's a process, and I think, and that's kind of one of the nice things I think about upstate is as opposed to maybe some other second home markets where there's a overwhelming pressure to deliver your property in perfect mint condition before guests can arrive. It's a much more relaxed, come as you are atmosphere. At least that's what I found.
And another thing to consider too, from a financing perspective, is there are rehab loans. If you do find a property that you love, but needs a little bit of TLC, there are programs where you can finance both the purchase and the scope of work to rehab that property.
Oh, that's great, Matt. I really appreciate that. Wow, I love that view. So $795, 2.5 acres.
And the house is very livable. I mean, you know, you can move into it. It's not like, you know, you have to wait to do whatever you're going to do with it.
Understood.
Jonathan, what do we got next?
449 South Gully Road.
This got a deal on it almost from the moment that it came on. Another spectacular view. It's on the market for $475. It's in Cragsmore, which is very interesting little community, arts community from the beginning of the century, tucked high above Ellenville. And up until, I'd say, the last couple of years, it was a really big secret. It's not a secret anymore now. People have no problem looking around Ellenville and specifically in Cragsmore. You know, this is a tree house. This is a tree house you can live in.
Wow.
And, you know, also close to the city, close to tons of hiking. Jonathan, remind me, is this a 3 and a 2 as well?
Just taking a look. 2 baths.
Can you go back? I love that home office shot. It's like the top of the treehouse is the home office, or at least that's how it's staged.
Yeah.
Who wouldn't want to work from there?
Exactly. Not big acreage. I think it's what, just 2 or 3?
3.3.
And totally secluded. You know, you could live the rest of your life in a birthday suit in this house and around this house, and nobody would know.
Wow. And I just wanted to, I'm glad you brought up acreage because you mentioned it a few times. I oftentimes, and this is how, when I first started looking upstate was, you know, I had this, you know, land size factor that I had in my mind, that I had to have a minimum of 30 acres or I want 100 acres. You know, newsflash, up here it's very hilly, so a lot of the land is not usable, right? And secondly, there's a thing called taxes on the amount of property you have.
That's correct.
Do one of you guys want to touch base on kind of the the illusion versus the reality of I gotta have at least 10 acres or 50 acres or something?
Yeah, absolutely. If you don't mind, I'd weigh in.
Go ahead,
Sure,
Jonathan.
go ahead.
No, I think you really touched on the essential point, which is how many acres am I actually going to use? What am I actually going to inhabit? I can look at a slope, but I can't build on it. Do I want to pay the taxes for it? If you have a small parcel that's bounded on two sides by either state wild forest or national forest, then you effectively have all of that protected. So when you're looking at land, you kind of want to look at the adjoining parcels, the possible uses, and then really just think about what it is that you want, how you want to spend your time. Because I think it's very easy for us to sort of step into the idea of enormous acreage and what we're going to do with it. But, I can tell you that my driveway is 256 feet long, and I would be very happy if it was half as long, because when it snows, I have to plow all of it. Right?
I don't want your plowing bill, Jonathan.
What's that?
I don't want your plowing bill.
No,
Yeah.
Where to shovel it on the days when he doesn't show up.
Ugh.
So, when we get to land a little bit later on, I think that's part of what happens, is that land is very much, on the one hand, about a feeling, but then also a rational calculation. And you sort of have to balance the two things out. And I think often people reach the same conclusion you do, which is that they want privacy in line with what their tastes are, but they don't necessarily need an estate-sized property around them. And then there are clearly other buyers who do, and they can find those as well.
Fair enough. Well, thanks, Jonathan.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I was just, a little tip to those who are watching. If you ask your agent to show you an aerial view of the property, we have access in our Ulster County information system to actually show you that, right? So a quick screenshot, you can see that on a 2-acre parcel, the house could be perfectly situated where you're equidistant from everyone, and there's nice and woods, in between. So the perception, and I think that's what we're talking about here, the perception of acreage isn't necessarily the bigger the better. It really comes down to house placement.
Right. I think Nolan makes a fantastic point. One of the things that I always tell land buyers and also home buyers as well, please, please, please look at the property, look at the address on Google Maps, okay? Because one of the things that is just a persistent phone call that we all get is somebody who's looking for a land bargain. And look, people have been coming upstate for literally hundreds of years from the city. Land is, for the most part, very rationally priced. Okay, there is still really good values and so forth. But if you see 5 acres for $20,000, a quick look at Google Maps is probably going to tell you why. Is that fair to say, guys?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I
That's
always
great.
tell people that, you can be really private on an acre, depending on how it's sited and what's around it, and not at all private on 50 acres because the house is right on the road and there's houses right across from the road. So the old whoever dies with the most acreage wins no longer is a thing.
Understood. That makes sense. Can we go to another property or two? And I also want to talk about land and then a little bit of wrap up. These shows always go so fast because there's just so much information in a short period of time.
What do you want to do, Larry? Riften Terrace?
What do you got next?
I've got 41 Viking or Riften Terrace.
Viking we did.
Okay, so Riften and then Mossy Hill?
Yeah.
Okay.
Wow. The pool.
The pool. This
By the
is
way,
a big,
I heard pools now cost like 50 grand to put in.
easily.
At least.
Easily.
This is not, I got $20,000, let me put in a pool to make my kids happy.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
This house is in Riften, which is close to New Paltz.
Okay.
It is a big house. I call it California in the Catskills. It's got that look to it. It's got any number of different rooms, and you look at this, this is just a wonderful place to be, whatever you're doing.
Right.
I think whoever buys this house will change some of the decor, but the flow of the house is incredible. This is a library. How often do you see a library anymore?
What's a book?
And that's a little family room
Pull it out of my
off the
mouth.
library. What's that?
I said, what's a book?
What's a book, right? That's an office, you know? This house is like close to, I think it's 3,500 square feet. Again, it's 7 acres, but the house, even though there are other houses on the road, it's all geared towards the back of the house. That's where you live. So even though you drive into the house and you see other houses on the road, you have this incredible privacy. And the house is really well built, owned by a former newscaster who I'm not going to use his name, but will be recognizable to those of us of a certain vintage.
And how much is this, Larry?
$729.
Okay.
Deal.
It's a lot of house, and look, I mean, you know, a paint job and tearing out the carpeting and putting in floors does wonders.
And most of the house is wood floors. There's only, you know, some rooms that have carpeting. Some of the cosmetic stuff people might change, but the bones of this house are just incredible. You know, there's a lot of value here, I think. And this just came on the market, and like everything else now, I think will be gone pretty soon.
Right. No, fair enough. What do you have another? I know you wanted to touch base on land a little bit. Do you have a land thing? And then
Jonathan has
you
a
know,
land, yes.
a gee whiz, wow, that's an amazing property. And then we're kind of almost out of time.
So this is my listing on Mossy Hill, up in Catskill, same region that that Nolan was talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And as you're looking at this, there is a road on the left, there is a pond, which is also a wetland, and then there's the essentially running down the center of the photograph is the 60.4 acres. There's an additional acres that are available. So this is another view of the pond and wetland. In this case, the road is on the right, and the slope, which has views, you can sort of see off into the distance where the Berkshires are. And this is a year-round water course. I mean, right now I was there this morning, and it's covered with water lilies. So it's subdividable. I should just say, you know, when I moved up full time, my great grandparents were weekenders coming up from the city, and I made the move about 12 years ago and ended up designing and hand building my own little house. And so if I look at land, I tend to take it a little bit more practically, maybe, because the buildability of a particular site just jumps out at me. This is a property that is suitable for subdivision. You've got some setback requirements, and those are one of the things that we can help land buyers with, is to understand the property. We can't be the experts, but we can certainly put them in touch with people who can give them a clear understanding of what's possible.
Quickly, because we're running a little bit out of time here, Jonathan. I'm sorry to cut you off. But what's the price on this?
$349.
Okay, $349 for 60 acres.
Acres.
That's amazing. That's incredible. And how does financing work for that, Matt? Real quick, if you wanted to buy land.
Yeah, just wanted to touch base there on financing land options as well. A little bit more of a down payment here at Ulster. It's 35%.
Okay.
After that, you can have the option to go right into new construction.
Okay, so you kind of wrap it in and you get exactly what you want on all of that. So, well, this has been, these times always fly by so much. But Matt and Larry and Robert, and I got to put on the big screen so I can get everybody's name together here. But Jonathan and Nolan, did I miss somebody?
Nope. You
I think I got everybody. So you guys are great. So with Lawrence O'Toole Realty, thank you so much for today. It was really great, very informative, and it's great to see so much activity because this is such a beautiful section of New York State, and thank you so much for sharing with us. So
can I say one thing before we go?
Yes.
We do have women who work for us, actually.
I know.
It was just totally random that it happened this way. In fact, we have more women working for us than men, and I apologize. I didn't. We really didn't want to be sexist about this. We have great women working for us, actually, and I just wanted everybody to know.
No problem. No problem. I totally understand. Well, thank you again, everyone. This is Martin Eiden with the Martin Eiden team at Compass here in New York. And we look forward to seeing you again soon. Take care, guys.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks, Martin. Take care.
Bye. You guys can stay on for a minute if you want to until we get off of Facebook.
Okay.
All right, I think we're off. Go ahead. We're off.
Is there a way to ask questions?